I wanted to talk to you about all 11 books I read in March of 2026. Hit after hit, you're like, how can it get any worse? But they have each other. At some points, the main character was pretty funny, other times he was kind of annoying. This was a really beautiful book. I really liked it. I thought the author was really talented. Hello and welcome. Happy April. It is a new month. This year is finally getting into spring months. I am so over winter. But since we are in a new month, that means a month just ended. So now that the month of March is over, I wanted to talk to you about all 11 books I read in March of 2026. I have officially read 20 books so far this year. So the fact that 11 of them were in a single month, pretty impressive reading month for me. I did travel a lot and I also went on a random solo trip. I did work, but for 5-6 days I was completely by myself in Florida, escaping the cold, and I read 5 or 6 books, I think, alone in that week, and one of those books was nearly 1,000 pages. But I have most of the books right here. Only one of them I don't own because I listened on Audible and I never bought the book. But if you don't know, I am taking it upon myself to finish every single book on my physical TBR, and a TBR is to be read pile. So all of the books I own, I have about 130 now. It was closer to 140 books that I own, and some of them owned for many, many years, and I keep buying books. But my goal this year is to get through as much of the ones I already own and try to buy less books. But it is very difficult because I absolutely love buying books. All that to say, I'm pretty impressed with how much I read. Most of these, oh gosh, I'm actually realizing that some of these I just bought. but most of these did make a dent in my goal of reading the books I own. So enough of that intro because we have a lot to talk about. I am going to do this in a very random order, so buckle up. I think we'll start off with a 5-star read I had in March, which is Alchemized by Senlin Yu. This tome, I don't think you can tell how heavy it is in the video. This has over 1,000 pages. I believe, well, I found a page I bookmarked. I really loved this book. It destroyed me and shattered my heart in a million pieces, but I loved it. It has 1,024 pages. And the paper is really incredible. I love this quality of paper. I wish all books were that paper material. This in very quick spark notes, because I do have a 50-minute video up on my channel where I give you my entire experience reading it and a review and basically tell you if it's worth going through this pain or not. Spoiler alert, it is. This book is essentially a rewriting of a book that was Manacled, which was a fan fiction which Senlin Yu wrote about what if the dark side won in the wizarding world. So it's a Draco and Hermione kind of story, like what happens after the 7th Harry Potter book if Lord Voldemort won. And that's what Manacled was. So it was taking that world that already existed, and then Alchemized is, I say like a retelling or a rewriting, but it's an entirely different magic system. It is about necromancy. It is a very dark book with a lot of emphasis on war strategy, the politics, the ins and outs, how regular people, the good side and the bad side, how everyone in a war is affected, and the very, very, very hard decisions you are faced with and have to make in times of war. And there are little glimmers of hope maybe every 400 pages, but the journey that you go on reading this book, it will stay with me forever. No book has ever entranced me in such a way, and truly it was the roller coaster of a lifetime. I'm so glad I read it. I will leave it at that because, like I said, I have an entire 50-minute video where you can get so many of my in-depth thoughts and opinions on this book. I am really proud of that video as well because I put my all into this reading experience. So That was Alchemized. I think I read this in the mid of the month. I don't actually remember. I switched between Audible, Kindle, and my physical copy. And I had received this as a gift for my birthday last year. So it was really special to me to finish it finally this month. I also read, actually this was my last read of the month, but I read 2 books in a series which I've decided I'm not going to continue, so I'm spoiling you in that sense. But there's Consider Me and Play With Me by Becca Mack. I'm not sure what this series is called. Playing for Keeps. It is essentially a hockey romance. It is based in Canada, which I liked. It's following a NHL team, like a fake team in Vancouver, and it's just silly, easy to read, kind of rom-com-y, pretty smutty hockey romances. If you want something easy to fly through, even though they are kind of long. I think the first one was, no, this is the second one. This is 480 pages, and the other one is 530. That's wild. I thought the other was longer. Anyway, so I read over 1,000 pages of hockey romances this past month. I do fly through them because it's no-brainer books. I don't know how to explain it. You just don't really have to turn your brain on. The language and dialogue is at a level less than what I use in my day-to-day with my friends and my family and my community, so you kind of fly through it. It's how like high schoolers talk, honestly. But it's funny. It was sweet. It was easy. I already owned both of them. I can't remember why. I must have bought them on a sale forever ago from like an online deal. And listen, I finally got through 2 books on my TBR. I have read much better sports romances, so I won't be continuing it. But the first one I did quite enjoy. I think I gave it 4 stars. We did read it for my book club, and I think only myself and Nikki, another girl in book club, liked it. Everyone else kind of hated it because they said the more spicy scenes were way out of hand. To be fair, I actually skipped all of those scenes when I was reading the first one because I was on a plane and I felt very uncomfortable reading that with an old Irish man who was very lovely sitting next to me. This one I didn't enjoy. Like, the dialogue kind of pissed me off because all of the women only ever talked about men, and it was just unrealistic and yeah, a little immature for me. But the first one I didn't mind. Like, I would maybe recommend it if someone wants a silly little romance, but then I also would 100% recommend Elsie Silver above that. Random comparison, or Mariana Zapata, if you know who that is. She's an incredible author who specializes in sports romances. But there we have it. Consider Me and Play With Me. I think, yeah, 4-star and maybe 2 or 3 for the second book in the series. Switching up the narrative a lot, I read Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan, and this I bought on a random whim. I was with a few friends in my hometown, another trip this month or last month, and we were in a little bookstore, a local bookstore. It was so sweet, and I just wanted to buy a book. And I ended up buying 2. I'll show you the other one because I also read it in just a second. Oh no, I bought 3. But I did pick this up and I finished it in my flight the day after. And I liked it. It was very sweet. It's like a slice of life. It's showing this average family in Ireland, and we mainly follow the husband or the dad's POV as a few things unfold in their town, and he pretty much decides that life is worth fighting for what's right. That makes sense. Like, it's worth fighting for what's right, even if it's going to ruffle some feathers, even if it's gonna make you kind of an outsider in the town. And I'll leave it at that because I think it's really beautiful to just follow along the journey, and it feels a bit heavy but also light at the same time. It's such mundane things being talked about and happening in the book, but you grow to really appreciate and love this family, and especially our main character's arc. I also read, I'm not going to say then I read because this is not in order, but I also read Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I hate this cover. I really wish I had the other one. I'll pop a photo. It's much nicer. But anyway, I also got this as a gift for Christmas. So this is pretty good that I'm reading it. I read it in March because not that much time passed since Christmas. I do like prioritizing books I receive as gifts. This I did read while I was in Florida, so you can get a lot more opinions. I actually go quite in depth about my thoughts on this book because after I read this book, I had the worst sleep I've had in years. Honestly, years. It left me with such a crazy sinking feeling that is very hard for me to describe again, and I kind of don't want to relive it. However, I did immediately recommend it to my dad because I thought he would like it. Kind of Black Mirror-esque, and my friends have all watched Severance, so if you watched that show, I haven't, but what I've heard about it, I could see similarities to Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. It was written well. I just hated the ending and the feeling it gave me, but different strokes for different folks. I can't remember what I rated it. 2 or 3 stars? Check out my Goodreads. Be my friend on Goodreads. Oh, this book was so good except for the ending. Okay, 70% of this book, I thought 5-star, 100%. This is an incredible sports fiction book about 2 figure skaters and 4 Canadians, Tessa Virtue and Scott Moir, the famous ice dance couple figure skaters, which went to the Olympics multiple times. The Moulin Rouge, iconic. If you know, you know. I was obsessed with them a few years ago, and growing up I did figure skating, and now I do it just for fun every now and then. I read From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata years and years and years ago when I first started getting back into reading in, I don't know, high school and uni, and I've been searching for a book to make me feel that way. Carrie Soto is Back was similar because I liked that the romance was kind of the backseat. I like it more when the sport and the intensity and the sacrifices and everything like Challengers is at the forefront of the story and driving it, and you feel the tension and intensity of the sport seeping into every part of the characters' lives because of everything you sacrifice as a professional athlete. And this book did that so well. I wouldn't even, like, yes, romance, it's a fiction romance, sports romance, but the sport aspect is so much more powerful. And then it seeps into the relationships they have. And Ella's food just got dispensed. I'm getting excited just talking about it. I loved this book. I highly recommend, but the ending was so bad. It was so bad. And because of that, I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. I just sighed so heavily at the end. I didn't like the direction that the author took. I'm sorry, that is my opinion. I do know from when I was looking at Goodreads reviews after I read it, I obviously don't want to spoil it for you because I do recommend reading it if you like those intense types of books and you like figure skating. Even if you know nothing about figure skating, I loved this book. I don't want to spoil it for you, but Goodreads reviews were really interesting because it was very polarizing. People love or hated it, and I was definitely more on the love side, but the ending really pissed me off, and I haven't had a book like that in a long time. I guess Dark Matter, the ending I was unsatisfied with, which the book I just talked about, so this left me unsatisfied at the end, but this was just stupid. Still 4 stars though. Okay, we're like about halfway, just a little over halfway there. I also read In Florida, so I'm gonna give you a lot more insight in that video, which you can watch. It's linked down below, and I'm sure the card has popped up at some point. But I finally read Educated by Tara Westover. I have had this on my TBR for years and years and years, and I just had no idea what it was about. I honestly thought it was someone. And again, a friend I swear had told me this was the synopsis, and it could not be more far from the truth, but someone told me it was about going to teach in Africa. And I thought that our main character was going to be someone like from the States who goes to teach in Africa. No. I was so far off. This is a beautifully written memoir by someone incredibly strong and powerful, and she grows up, I want to say it's in Idaho. I can't believe I already forgot, but it's in the States, and she grows up with an extremely religious Mormon family, and her father, is that a spoiler? I'm gonna leave it at that. Know that she grows up in that state, and then she ends up being one of the most educated authors I've ever read a book of. She went to Harvard? Did she ever get a distinction from Harvard? Yeah, okay, she's a visiting fellow. So she got a BA at Birmingham Young University, awarded the Gates Cambridge Scholarship, and earned an MPhil from Trinity College, Cambridge, and a visiting fellow at Harvard University. Then she did her PhD at Cambridge, and now she lives in England. So that's kind of giving you the where she started versus where she is now, and this book gives you all the in between, and I highly recommend it. It was extremely entertaining, very well written, and I finished it I think in 3 or 4 days, so I highly recommend. Maybe even less. I think I gave it 4 stars. That rings a bell. 4-ish stars makes sense because I will remember this for a long time, and it was written really well and it was easy to fly through. Oh my gosh. This tome, I can't believe I also read that. I read such long books this month. I'm so proud of myself. This one was 700 pages? 870. I read Queen of Air and Darkness by Cassandra Clare, which is the 3rd and final book in the Dark Artifices series trilogy. I adore the Shadowhunters world. If you don't know what that is, the Mortal Instruments is the most popular series. I think it's 6-book series, and I read that eons ago. And I remember actually getting in trouble one day. I was in middle school or high school, and I was reading one of the last books in the series, and all day I laid in bed and read, and my mom yelled at me that I don't do anything all day. And I was like, woman, I'm literally laying in bed reading. What more do you want from me? I could be out in the streets. And I vividly remember that because I was reading one of those books. Alas, I have read one other trilogy by Cassandra Clare, which was the prequel. This trilogy was what happens right after the ending of the Mortal Instruments, and I love that she dove into that because it's very rare that you see at the end of a long, intense fantasy series, what's next? Like, this war just happened. Destruction just happened for 6 books. And what happens next? Like, what happens to the characters and all the side plots that you get introduced to throughout a 6-book series? Well, in this we find out. I absolutely loved it. I loved the characters that we met so much. I think book 1 was my favorite in this trilogy because introducing this new story and plot line gripped me. The ending of book 2, I remember, was the craziest cliffhanger ever, and I couldn't wait to start this one. And I'm satisfied with how it ended, but I did think this one dragged on just a little too long. If I remember correctly, I did again read this in the beginning of the month. I want to say I gave it 4 stars. That sounds right. And I cherish it with my heart, but I already can't really tell you that many details of what happens. Like, I remember the parts, and when they go in the Feyland, and then when they're in like that parallel universe, and that just felt a little bit dragged on, and everything Ty was doing made no sense. She also, though, does leave it open-ended at the end, so I could definitely see a new series being written that kind of follows after this. I would probably read it, but maybe not full priority. I did really enjoy it though. And the next series I want to read is, it's not even on here actually, but it's the Chain of, oh, hi, my love. Chain of Iron, Chain of Gold, Chain of Thorns, something like that. So there's another trilogy. I already own all 3, and I do want to read it at some point. But yeah, I just finished this trilogy by Cassandra Clare. I've had a big fantasy month. This with Alchemized, that's intense. We only have 3 books left, so bear with me. This book, and I didn't enjoy it. This is My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies by Fredrik Backman. I adore Fredrik Backman. I've read A Man Called Ove or Ove, all the Baritone books, Britt Marie Was Here, Anxious People, My Friends, you name it. I think I've read every single one of his books now. This might have been the last one I had to read, and it was my least favorite. I don't know what year this came out, to be honest, so maybe that impacts it. Maybe the translator is different from this book versus his others. The storyline was kind of hard to follow. It goes back and forth between this little girl and her grandmother's like fictional world and then the real world, and with all the monsters and the fairy tale land. It was honestly just hard to follow. So it was harder to get connected and feel a sense of wanting to keep reading when I was mostly confused and a little annoyed and slightly bored. That's nothing against the author. Again, I really like him, and honestly, it kind of made me grateful also to read this book and think, thank God this was not the first book by him I read, because if it were, I probably would have been discouraged to read all of his other books, which are some of my favorite. Life of Pi by Yann Martel. I mostly listened all. No, I did also read a bit on my Kindle, but I mostly listened to this on Audible. This is one of those instances where I was walking for a while and I wanted to be reading as well, but I also want to get all the books read on my TBR. So my new trick is on Audible, I will only let myself read. Okay, actually, except for the next book I'll talk about, which is the last one in this wrap up. But I usually only get a book on Audible or on audiobook format if I also own it. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone because I'm reading, and when I'm walking or doing chores or cleaning, I can be reading. At the same time, though, I'm reading books that I own, even if I'm not actually holding the book. So that is why I chose to read Life of Pi. I remember I had previewed a bit of it and I liked the narrator's voice. What a sneaky, tricky book. I'm not gonna spoil why I think the plot twist is such a plot twist, because if you know nothing about this book, which I honestly didn't, I really didn't, I'm surprised because it's such a beloved and well-known and by now kind of old book. A lot of people have read it. I wonder if people have read it in school. I never did. I was never assigned to read Life of Pi. I honestly didn't even realize there was a movie, but I remember looking up the trailer as I was reading, and that made me even more excited to find out what's gonna happen. She just knocked over all my books. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was very cute, and I did read it, all of it, while I was in Florida. So again, you can watch that video to get more of an in-depth insight into what I thought of it. But it was a good time. I think I would have liked it also if I was a bit younger. I liked the messages about life and being grateful for what you have. At some points, the main character was pretty funny. Other times, he was kind of annoying, but he was just a kid. He was just a boy. And yeah, it was good. It was good. I don't know if it'll stay with me forever and ever and ever. Like, I won't forget it, but it didn't impact me in the way other books have. I'll say it that way. And the last book, which is funny enough, the first book I finished in March, is Pachinko. And this was a really beautiful book, which I will remember for a very, very, very long time. I exclusively listened on Audible. I didn't read it all on my Kindle, and I don't actually own this book. I am thinking about buying it if I ever find it on sale or something, because I'd love to have it in my library because of how much it meant to me. I found out there's a TV show. I don't want to watch it. I think the book hit me in such a way and left me satisfied. It wasn't a conventionally happy ending by any means, and what our characters go throughout the book are just like hit after hit. You're like, how can it get any worse? But they have each other. I surprised myself by picking it up. I'm not gonna lie. It came, I think, on my recommended on Audible, and I thought I own it, which is why I decided to go ahead and listen and read it, because it was, I think, over 20 hours of listening time. But I did highly enjoy. I recommend. For a tiny synopsis, it follows 3 or 4 generations, I think it might be 4, of Koreans during the Japanese-Korean War. And we start off in Korea and kind of follow generation through generation how they move, why they move, if they're displaced, all of the relationships, like their identities, how they interact with the different communities, seeing essentially how it affected Koreans living in Japan, but also Koreans who stayed in Korea during that time. It was, I suppose, historical fiction. I don't know exactly how historically accurate the book is, but I will say there isn't as much of an emphasis on a specific date or moment in time or political move or event. It's really how the families over time change their way of living and stay true to themselves and their culture while being integrated in new places, and how it affects their relationship with themselves, with their family, and the community around them. And I really liked it. I thought the author was really talented. Also, Sandra Oh, who I adore, was the narrator, so I also think that probably made me enjoy it a lot more, and I think that's why I ended up getting it and listening on audiobook, is because I saw Sandra Oh was the narrator, and the little preview was quite fantastic. But there you have it. Those are all 11 books I read in March. I just talked for so long. I haven't had any work meetings today so far. I've just been like working away, so this is the first time I've talked in a while. I loved it. I adore talking about books. If you have read any of the 11 I talked about, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I'm excited for April. I actually already finished a book this month and I did consider including it in today's video, but I have so many opinions, like that could be its own. So we'll get to it next wrap up. I'm excited to read more just the rest of the year. I really missed reading. I think I fell off of it a little bit in January and February. I really didn't read much, like a handful of books. So I'm excited that March was like my spike back into it. And again in April, I am traveling quite a bit. So hopefully that just means more uninterrupted reading and book time. But I really hope you enjoyed. I wish you a lovely, lovely month ahead, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.